I roll him over. Now, was he stable just a few seconds ago? Is he stable now? No. That's worth a point, isn't it? Everyone, thanks for coming to our seminar today on freestyle judo officiating. My name is Steve Scott, and what we're here to do is to train you as officials and referees in the sport of judo, specifically using the freestyle judo rules that we have in the Amateur Athletic Union, the AAU. Real quick background on what we've been doing. In 2008, being the contrarian that I am and seeing the way judo was going, we decided to do something about it by changing the rules a bit and working with them. So a group of us, I was kind of the one that got it started, developed a set of rules, what has kind of been now known as freestyle judo. It's not a new style of judo, it's not different judo, it's still Kodokan judo. It's just the whole concept is allowing the athletes, allowing the coaches in the dojos to coach the full concept of what judo is, of Kodokan judo, and allow them to do it in a competitive situation. We want to harken back to a better era of when judo was more fully done on the mats. And so we had to look at how the rules, often people coach based on the rules of the sport, which isn't always a good idea when you're teaching judo as a physical education, but judo as a sport, we wanted to provide a vehicle, a tool, so that coaches could coach all the phases of judo and allow the kids or adults, whomever is competing, to do it on the mat. So we have a set of rules that will allow this. That's what's involved in the freestyle judo rules. We started in 2008, in October of 2008, at several experimental tournaments in the Kansas City area. And then in 2009, we said, we'll launch this, give it a shot nationally. The AAU has been very good to us in giving us support. They provide the insurance, and through their AAU Judo Committee, Norm Miller's the national chairman, been very supportive to what we're doing. So we want to thank them for that. And in 2009, in November 2009, we had our first Freestyle Judo Nationals, Kearney, Missouri, near Kansas City. Kenny Brink put it on, one of my good black belts, very innovative guy. We had close to 200 contestants show up for it. Very, very successful. So we were very, very pleased with what happened. And it's been doing pretty well ever since. We've been holding about the same amount of numbers just about every year, so the numbers have been good. So there are enough people out there that show that this has legs. This is something that people want. Is it the mainstream of judo? Apparently not. You know, the other organizations still do what they do, that's fine. But this is a great developmental program if you want to look at it in that sense. And it's also a great way, since we're the only people doing freestyle judo, it's a great way if you want to pursue this as a competitive sport in and of itself. We do have some very good athletes coming out every year for our nationals, both junior, senior level, and masters. So it's been successful so far. We want to keep it going. This is why you're important. We need good referees, we need good officials. And I do these clinics in various places so we can develop more referees and more clinic and more officials. So thank you for attending. And you're kind of bucking the system, but that's okay. You know, the system needs to be bucked, and I think we're doing the right thing. That being said, let's get started. Okay, what this is judo. When you see a freestyle judo match, just like Vincente's father said, he said, what's the difference? This is judo. He said, that's the point. That's the point. It is just judo, okay? We start them out, bow, hajime, the whole thing, just like you know, okay? Our job as a referee, I kind of stole this from wrestling because I have a strong sambo background and wrestling background. If we referees approach a match like a wrestling or sambo referee does, we're out of the picture. We're not out of the picture totally. We're managing the match. We're making sure it's safely done and fairly done. We're providing safe, objective officiating. I'm not in the middle of it. I'm not the center of attention anymore as the referee, okay? You know, I've been a national referee in judo as well. We tend to exert ourselves too much as judo referees into it. We have a little bit different philosophy in freestyle judo. One, we're very approachable. So if a coach has respectfully, if a coach has a question after a match, we'll answer it. We won't tell them to get lost. We've all had experiences, haven't we? Okay, we know that. I had a referee at an international tournament call me human garbage. Yeah. I was a young coach. I was very respectful. I did everything correctly. He was a high dan grade. And I said, Sensei, could I have a word with you about a match, a technical call he made? And he told me he didn't speak to human garbage. I didn't take that well. You know, I'm a human being too, okay? We know that. So if they're respectful, we're respectful. This is as an official. But we will talk to them. We'll explain why we did or what we did, okay? And we are approachable, so that's one thing, okay? Another thing, we're not the main picture, as I said. We're going to call the match, make sure it's done fairly, and we want to prevent injuries. That's a big job. I've officiated a lot of sports, football, wrestling, basketball, and one of the things we always do is make a fair call and make sure the match is safe. And so we stress that. So anyway, the match would start, you know, normally, hajime, we have the same calls, all that's the same, okay? No hand gestures. The very old days, they go, hajime. We don't do that. We bow to each other, hajime. Step out of the picture, make yourself present to officiate the match, okay? So that's the procedure. They still come on the mat, they bow, they're ready to go. Same as any other judo tournament in the world, all right? Now, where we get a difference is when we call the points. And ippon is still an ippon. Let's start with the point structure, okay? Ippon. Now, you notice I'm wearing red or white. You may have, I'll step out here secondly. I may choose to wear this. Now, the AAU referees often wear a shirt like this, but you don't have to. You can be in a white shirt. You know, it could have, you know, AAU logo or no logo at all. Just look professional. We don't want you in a suit and tie. You know, insurance is a wonderful way to make a living, but I don't want you to look like an insurance salesman out on the mat, okay? I want you to look like a referee. And, you know, those who wear shirt and ties, that's wonderful. But you have more freedom of movement when you're dressed as an official, okay? We picked that up off wrestling and a lot of other sports. And you don't see a basketball official wearing a suit and tie, do you? He looks like an official. So we want you to look like an official. So at least look professional and wear, you know, a white polo shirt, some type of polo shirt. Don't just show up in shorts and, you know, a T-shirt that says, you know, Hawaiian surfing or something. You know, look professional. And generally the dark pants or khaki pants, the referee shirt or a white shirt. And we have bands if you choose to wear them. Now it may be red and blue or red and white or blue and white depending on, like at our nationals this last year, James Wall had blue and white, okay? And in Kansas City, we picked this up from when I used to travel a lot in Europe. They always did red and white. So it doesn't matter. One athlete will be wearing a white belt. One athlete will be wearing either a red belt or a blue belt for color purposes. They don't have to wear a blue gi or a white gi, okay? Judo doesn't need to be that expensive. Just as long as a standard judo gi that meets all the same requirements as the International Federation or other organizations, just as long as it's a legal judo gi. And we don't care the color, really. It could be any color we choose. It doesn't matter, okay? You can have two guys in blue gis, two guys in white. It doesn't matter to us, all right? So that's the bands. I'm not going to use them right now because I do have the shirt on. But if I didn't have the shirt or I chose to wear it, I might have a red band and a white band, all right? So we have that. When I make the calls, ippon, if red through white, ippon, soremare. Just like any other rule, but I'm holding up the red side, aren't I? Now, to make sure, because we have a lot of volunteers, mainly volunteers who are working the table, I'll say, ippon, red, soremare, just to make sure. That's a good idea in any judo match. Ippon, white, soremare, okay? We know, ippon, for white, the match is over. Remember, always call soremare after you call ippon. Means the match is over. Standard as any judo rules. We have them here too, all right? Now, around the mat, instead of two judges sitting, and how many times have we seen a judge fall asleep, even at the international level, I can tell you I've seen it, falling asleep in his chair, okay? Nothing, it gets boring sometimes. So to stop that, our side referees, our side judges, walk about the mat. Okay, think about basketball officiating. I used to officiate, we had the triangulation deal. You know, if three of us are working, or another, me and another official working, I never block his view. Okay? So if I'm the center official and we have two guys roving around, they're always making sure they're on opposite sides of the mat so they get another set of eyeballs on that different view from mine. So we may have an official here, maybe an official there. I'm working it here, I'm working it here, I'm looking at it. They're constantly shifting their movement too, so they can constantly get a good view of the action. That's for safety, and that's for objectivity. I have 3 sets of eyeballs working here, and we're all getting a different view, but we're all looking at the same thing. Okay? So that really does help in calling a better match and calling a safer match. Okay? Yes, Jerry.
If I'm not mistaken, some of the side officials at the Freestyle Nationals this year got a little excited or were actually on the mat.
Yes, and they heard from me.
So can you point out where
Great point. Remember, I'm the guy in the center. I'm still calling the match. That's my responsibility and authority. Okay? The 2 side roving officials, they don't make the calls. Now, if they disagree with the call, they can come in and you know, they don't have to make a big deal of it. And if I don't see them, they can come up and tap me and say, you know, first, let's say you and another person are the side judges roving about, and I call, you know, Waza-ari or 4 points, and you think, no, it's Ippon, okay? And you want to overrule me. Well, that's still the rule of 3, we'll overrule. And you look at the other side, judge, oh, it was Ippon, okay. So, and I'm going on, I'm thinking it's Waza-ari. You would come up and approach me and say, hey, Steve, we overruled you, we think Ippon. Okay, it's Ippon, best 2 out of 3. Then I'll act appropriately. That's when you can come on and say something as a side official. But newer officials tend to get excited and they call out and they, oh, 4 point, whatever it may be, or they'll call an order of mate, no. Don't interfere with the center official. That's my job. And yeah, they did hear about that when they did that. And that happens to new officials, okay? And does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. So further on. So now, you have your choice. Ippon is Ippon, still going to be called Ippon. But now when we get to the world of Waza-ari, okay? Waza-ari. Now remember, we know traditionally Waza-ari is from here, Waza-ari, okay? Now, we start out, instead of calling Waza-ari, now 2 Waza-aris do not make Ippon in freestyle judo. It's just 4 points. Waza-ari means almost a technique, Waza-ari, okay? That means it's almost a technique, almost a full point. It's almost complete. Now, some time ago, it wasn't used that Waza-aris were just Waza-aris, and you could have a number of them, and then the rules changed through the years. In the 30s, I think, they started with 2 Waza-aris made Ippon. Well, to us, it's almost a technique. It's not quite Ippon. It doesn't make 2 Waza-aris do not make Ippon, okay? It's worth 4 points. So we use the numerical structure here because people can understand, kids can understand, parents can understand, athletes can understand a score of 7-4, okay? And it's accumulative. You know, I mean, these points accumulate. So with the regular judo rules, a Waza-ari, you can have a whole bunch of Yukos and never make up a Waza-ari. But in freestyle judo, you can. You could have a Yuko throw, which would be a 2-point throw, and guess what? 2 Yukos now are equal to that Waza-ari that other guy scored. So what we're trying to do here is make it more equitable, more objective. So if somebody's thrown somebody else twice, they may not quite be, and how many times have we seen a referee kind of skirt somebody when it should have been a Waza-ari, but he called a Yuko, just to make sure the other guy didn't catch up? We've seen that. This way, that prevents a lot of that hometown stuff going on, and it makes it more objective, and frankly, makes it fairer. Okay? So that's one of the reasons we've done this. Okay? So the points now, if Ippon is Ippon, Waza-ari, you can call Waza-ari, you can call Waza-ari 4 points red, Waza-ari 4 points white, or my preference is 4 points red, 4 points white. You can go either way. There are people whose sensibilities may be upset. They think, well, I still want to have the word. I still want to have the gesture. Well, it makes it longer and a little more complicated. But in your area, if that's more accepted, do it. That's okay. Now, at the Nationals, we're still going to be calling this or this. But does that make sense to everybody? So, help your area out. If the people who come to your tournament say, well, it looks too much like wrestling. Okay, Waza-ari, 4 points. Yes, sir.
I was going to say, for the transitional people, for people that are actually IJF rules type referees, you've been doing this forever and ever. So you have to find a way to make that transition. And so I think what Steve is proposing is a happy medium. So you get the one. Because I'll be honest with you, if I do a freestyle judo match, I'm going to call, my hand is automatically going to do that.
And that's okay.
Ed and I have been doing that for 40 years? 50 years?
But no, that's absolutely okay.
Yeah.
But we're still getting, we know this means 4 points. Those referees know that, so make sure your table help knows if they see this and you don't call 4 points, they know this signal, Waza-ari, is equal to 4 points. All right? Yes, sir. That's right. 4 points. Yeah, that's fine. Now, so the next level, Yuko. All right? Now, 2 points, 4, 2, 1. Ippon, 4, Waza-ari. Yuko, 2. Koka, remember the old days of Koka? Okay? I remember when they were changed. Ed, you and I remember. Jerry, you and I remember. There weren't things Kokas before then, and the Kokas were made a huge difference in judo, and I think for the better, actually, But we'll get to that in a moment. So Yuko, 2 points, red. Yuko, 2 points white. 2 points white, 2 points red. The equivalent to a Yuko throw, period. Okay, that's pretty easy. So we've got Ippon. Ippon is a throw with control, largely on the back. It doesn't have to be flat on the back, largely on the back with control and force. No soft rolling Ippons. Okay? That doesn't mean you have to knock somebody cold. 2 6-year-olds don't have to make a big boom. Okay? They're little bitty bodies. Just as long as all control, force, and impetus, that type of thing, we want to make sure it's hard enough, but it is still Ippon. All right, Waza-ari is anything less than that, okay? All right, Yuko is anything less than that, same as any other judo rules, all right? Now, the one-pointers, we're getting into a whole new area here that this is what makes us different quite a bit from the judo rules as we know now, okay? And especially in relation to the Newaza, the ground fighting. But let's start with the basics here. A Koka is worth 1 point. Now in Kansas City, we call 1 point red, 1 point white. You can call Koka 1 point. Give a signal, whatever, 1 point. Koka 1 point, white or red, whatever it may be here. Or you can do that, okay? By the way, Ed's holding up one finger. I got in the habit of, when I was officiating a lot of wrestling, the international wrestling, and Sambo we start with our thumb. If you're going to start with a thumb. Okay, we all started with sucking our thumbs. Just keep it up, okay? All right, but 1, 2, 4, Ippon. And if you start with a thumb, that's how I do. You want to do 1 point, that's okay. I don't care, But that's how it always worked for me, all right? And I'm in the habit of doing that and just because of my wrestling officiating background too. So that being said. Okay, so we've got that, but it could be a Koka. A Koka is, remember the old days throwing him kind of on his buttocks? Not quite Yuko. Yuko is more on the side of the back, okay? By the way, we have on our website, we got the rules on our website, right, Vincente? Okay, so we have a complete set of freestyle judo rules on our website at freestylejudo.org, freestylejudo.org, okay? And if you want a PDF copy, which is free, you can email me at stevescottjudo@yahoo.com. I'll shoot you an email, the rules, okay? So you have it's about a 45 page rule book. Real quickly, go off camera here. Here's what it looks like. Here's a hard copy. So if you want this, we can get it to you in electronic format on email. Yes, sir.
I've got 4 or 5 more of those.
And we do have some more here available. I brought 1 or 2, and you brought a bunch, so we do have them available if you want to get one. Yeah. Okay. So, but we do have that available. So we're back to the Koka. Koka 1 point. Koka 1 point. Okay, 1 point. Now another thing that were initially in the rules of judo that helped make it more objective, which we've kept in freestyle judo, is if you throw someone and they land on their front torso, not on hands and knees or not on elbows and knees, but on the torso, okay, that is a Koka. that initially was a Koka back in 72 when I think they changed the rules, 73, whatever it was. What's that?
I believe it was 73, 74.
Yeah, about 73, 74, and they made the rule changes and they took it out after a while. But I think they should have left it in because it did help make the match more objective and give another avenue for scoring. The more chances we have to give them to score points, the less I have to be intrusive and with my subjectivity. As an official, I find it very nice to have an objective set of criteria that I know I can fall on. Now I'm still going to call them as I see them. That's subjective. That's we're human beings. But if I have a good set of criteria that objectively is laid out as an official, I'm going to call a better, safer match, a more fair match. So that's what I'm trying to do. So that's why we still have the throw on the torso. It's a 1-point move. It could be a Koka, but if you want to call Koka, fine. It's 1 point. But that's what it is on that front, okay?
Can you, for some of the people that don't know Koka, can we
Vincente, please. All right. Let's say, and Vincente is suited up and he is my guy here. Let's say I throw him and he lands on his buttocks. We good? Okay, so I throw him, bam, he lands on his buttocks. Boom, just like there. There's a Koka, or boom, there's a Koka. I might have foot swept him. Bam, knocked him down, Koka, all right? Or I might have foot swept him, and just go to your torso front. Bam, foot. Boy, that was a dramatic one. But let's say I foot swept him, boom, and he goes down, boom, like that. I had a control there. I threw him, but I didn't throw him onto his back. So yeah, don't you think you should get credit for throwing the man? I mean, really, it makes sense. Well, that's what it was. There was the 1 point, Koka, 1 point for the throw, okay? That helps things a lot for us as referees. It really does. And it gives another level of criteria that's objective, okay? All right, so that's the throwing. Now, another thing about throwing, yes, Scott?
What about a situation where you initiated a throw, but it didn't really happen? But through the mix, the match is now on
We
the
both
ground.
tumble,
Yeah.
and maybe I hit?
Does anybody get a point?
No control. Got to have control. Good point. Who said that? That's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct, Jeff. Because you've got to have control of it. So that's where my job is to assess that. Now, if I'm kind of point happy, and where some referees may be, they may get involved, and that's what you other two guys on the side. Hopefully, you're moving around doing your job, and you get that other two sets of eyes. Say, no, there wasn't enough control. Okay, then overrule that. I'll change that just like we do normally in judo, and say no Koka, no 1 point, call it back, and then we can carry on. Okay. Real quickly before we go into this, don't have a big, hairy, long meeting while these two guys are cooling down. We can get this settled quickly, efficiently. You can, if you have to, you two side judges have to come up and get me. We'll back, mate. Okay, boom, we get back at it. We don't need to discuss the world events here, okay? We don't need to talk about, I may be a Grandmaster 18th Dan or whatever rank I can conceive myself to be. If these two guys overrule me, they overrule me. And that's it, okay? I may disagree with it. I obviously made another call. I do disagree with it. But they're telling me, no, that was this or that. Okay, good. Well, you can tell me later what you think, okay? We can have a discussion later. But these two are the important ones on the mat. It's not about me anymore. And that's another thing about freestyle judo. We're very aware of that. We want to make sure it's not about us anymore. It's about these two guys or girls. We want them to have a fair, objective chance, safe way to do judo. Okay, so let's get back to the 1-pointers. 1 point, the throws. Is everybody good with that? You understand where we're coming from that? Okay, so it's in the old rules a Koka, either on the buttocks or on the torso. Okay, now if he lands elbows and knees, it's not a point. I don't have enough control of him. He stopped the control of my throwing movement. Okay, let's talk about Newaza points. Okay, by the way, you can't win a match, and we may change this in the future, but right now, when we set up the rules initially, in freestyle judo, you can win by a throw, a choke, or an arm lock, ippon. In Newaza, I hold them down, osekomi waza, osekomi, 20 seconds, worth 4 points. Waza-ari. But it's worth 4 points. Okay? That doesn't mean if I throw a guy for Waza-ari and I hold him for 20 seconds, 2 Waza-aris do not make ippon.
So there's near fall points, but no pin.
Correct. Correct. Like a near fall, like in, yeah. And we picked that up from wrestling and sambo. And it made a lot of sense. Because what we're doing now is allowing more newaza, more ground fighting, a little more technical things can happen there. Not that pinning is not a technical thing, don't get me wrong. But this allows a little more ground fighting time too. So, osai komi, I'm holding my hand out. We like to see you hold your hand out. In judo now, they pull it back, okay? Do they do that now, you guys? Do they pull it back anymore? Osai komi,
No,
You hold it out.
they still hold it out?
Yeah.
Okay, because I have not done IGF judo in a number of years. But we prefer to have you continue to hold that out. If it's red, your red hand's out.
To continue for the whole pin?
Yeah, just so everybody knows,
Oh, we don't do that.
we've got it working.
You hold it out there for about 3 to 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, and we do this because now everybody knows what's going on. There's osai komi in progress here, okay? And I picked that up off sambo because now the referee is letting everybody know I'm making this call. You know, it could be this one, it could be white, you know, and I'm making this call. So that's a good thing to do. We don't really get hard at it that you have to do it. If you want to pull it back, you're used to doing it, okay, but make sure that the osai, and this way everybody knows, the coaches, everybody knows the osai komi is still in effect, right? When it's not in effect and he escapes, toketa. So it's like this, he's holding, the guy gets out before 20 seconds is up, toketa. You know, get the time on it, you know, the time equivalency, then you make the call. And the clock's going to tell you.
Separate osai komi time clock?
Yes, there is a separate osai komi time clock.
Can you give us the time?
Yes, yes. Upon initiation of control, let me think, I'm going back on memory here. If it's the full 20 seconds, it is worth 4 points, okay? If it is 10 seconds, it is worth 2 points. If you got initiation control to 5 seconds, it is worth 1 point, okay? So it's 4, 2, and 1, 20, 10, and 5.
Paths.
I'm curious, I watched a couple of kids that, especially the kids that do the pin, well, they weren't kids, they were adults, but they do the pin, and they got the 4 points, and then the referee said, submit.
Yes, we're going to talk about that.
And what the kid did is the one that was dominant, flipped over the other kid, rolled him completely over himself, put him back into another pin.
Well, that's because, let's talk about that in a minute. Oh, that's a great question. We'll talk about that in a minute. So I'm the referee, and let's just say red is holding, you know, osai komi. And I've got this, you know, and now I'm watching the clock, or they're okay, and I see that 4 points. Now, if you want to call Waza-ari, okay, Waza-ari, or 4 points, red, go for your submission. Now, he is required, red, who is holding white, is required to try to do a choke or an arm lock on him to finish the match. He got his 4 points. Let's say he threw him. He got 4 points for the throw. So he's 4 points up. Okay, then he got 4 points. So he's 8 up now. He's 8 points to the other guy's nothing or whatever it may be before. So he just scored 8 points. Now I'm telling him as the referee, go for your submission. Okay, after the 20 seconds are up. Now now if he stands up, no man, I want you to do some newaza. That's why we made this rule. So you continue to do some newaza here to try to finish it off. Make it, you know, try to finish the opponent off. Remember the original concept of osai komi? I know I'm being a geek on this. Osai komi means to immobilize an opponent. The osai, and the komi is the actual application of that immobilization. And the purpose of immobilizing an opponent is what? In a real fight, do you just, okay, I won that fight, you know, I stand up. No, the idea is then to go on for some other finishing move. That's the original concept. What's wrong with that? That's pretty cool. And it makes our guys better at newaza too when they have that. So that's what you're doing here,
So as
guys.
a competitor, why would I even bother getting points? Why wouldn't I just go for it?
Yeah, well, you could just go for the, you could go for the submission. Yeah, you know.
That's not the case for the kids, right?
Not the kids. The kids we have, and thank you for bringing that up. So, and let's diverge here a little bit. In kids rules, now we allow in AAU judo chokes from 11 and up, okay, 11 and up, okay, and you know shime waza, and konsetsu waza ages 15 and up, or anyone in a senior weight class. If you're a 14-year-old and you're a stud, and you're fighting the men in the men's whatever 165-pound class or 178, wherever you are, you're fighting under senior rules now. We don't dumb down the rules for kids, and I'm not saying we're dumbing down the rules, but we don't modify them. You're fighting as an adult. You fight under adult rules, so that's one thing. But, excuse me, if we do have two kids, and let's say two 9-year-olds, right, and they're competing, we still allow them because they can't choke and they can't arm lock, can they? They can throw, so we're going to give them another way to win on the ground. They can hold for 25 seconds, then you can hold for ippon if you're in the junior rules, okay?
And 20 is still a Waza-ari.
20 would be the Waza-ari, 10 would be the Yuko, 5 would be the Koka. Yeah. So kids do have two ways to win, throwing and ground, if they're not allowed to choke.
So from 11 up is one thing, and 10 and below.
Yeah, and say we've got two 12-year-olds. Now, they can choke, but they can't arm lock. Okay? So they have now throws, they can hold for ippon, they can choke for ippon. So we have three ways they can do ippon now. Now, when we get to 15 and over, then we do the senior rules.
So when you get the arm bar, you lose the pin, basically.
Well, yeah, let's say you've held them, you got your 4 points, right?
Right.
I say, red, go for your submission. Right. Okay, well, you've got your points. That's all you're going to get. You're not going to get any more 4 points for the holdout. Go for your submission. And that's what we want you to do. Now, directly to Ed's question, what happened maybe, the guy tried the submission and it didn't work. And the other guy got out. Well, if that's the case, I lost control, say red lost control of white. He tried to get the submission, but white went back to they had a scramble basically. And now it's anybody's game. And now we're back to square. Okay, so if I break him down again, I may get a point for a breakdown. I can stick him into a pin again and get 4 more points for my hold down. So that's what happened in that situation, I'm sure. That he tried the submission. Well, maybe to you, but that's what happened. That's why they're officials and you have an opinion off the side of the mat. All right. But that's probably how the officials called it. So that could happen. So we would want you to go for a choke or an arm lock after that and if it didn't work and they scrambled out, it didn't. But we want them to be aggressive in the Newaza. That's why we made that rule. Yes, sir. Anthony.
I just had a question. If a lot of times in national judo, you see the guy, they throw him, they go to the ground, they just stand back up. Is there a penalty for
Not necessarily. If I choose to throw you and I don't want to engage, then I know I'm beating you on standing. Yes, there's no penalty for that. I'm not required to go to the mat from a throw, and because I may have just a few seconds left, and I know you are an animal on arm locks. I don't want any part of you on the ground. And I know I'm up by 2 points or something, and I knock you down. Oh man, I'm staying away. I understand that. That's part of the tactics of it. Now if I'm running away from you, that's another thing. But if I'm playing it smart, yeah. So we still want the full range of tactics to be used as well, and that would be a clear example of that.
So it's okay if they're on the ground, the guy knows I'm not doing well.
Yeah, I can stand up. Yeah, that's right. If he knows I'm just not beating this guy and I only got so much time left, I know I can throw him, I think, then yeah, we're going to stand up. But once you from the osaikomi, we want you to try to go for a finishing hold, shime or arm lock, kensetsu waza. So that's that. But let's talk about points for ground fighting now. This is where we make a difference. Okay, we validate things by giving them names, don't we? Or giving them some kind of a point assessment. Okay, for years, judo we haven't given specific names to various things on the ground. Now, yeah, different pins, the concept of osaikomi, we've got that, katami waza, we've got that. But specifically turning a man over or breaking him down from a stable to an unstable position, we haven't named that. We haven't given that any point value even. But those are legitimate judo techniques. And like Vincente and I were talking about earlier, think of it this way. If we're on the ground and we're doing Newaza, and come on over here, and he's on elbows and knees. Have your head facing Scott, there you go. And if he's on elbows and knees, okay, and I take him from a stable to an unstable position, think of this like a throw, only on the ground, okay? Because that's what we're doing in standing throwing, aren't we? We're taking from stable to unstable. We're using kuzushi, sukure, kake, and then finish him off with kime, the follow-through. Well, that's what I'm doing here in Newaza as well. So bam, he's down here. I do the far arm, I do the near leg, follow up, bam. I just turned him from a nice happy position he thought he had onto his back. So I took from stable to unstable. Well, that's worth something, we think.
And you don't have to control them at the end.
Don't have to. We're going to talk about that.
You
Good.
have to?
No, at the end, you don't have to, and we're going to talk about that. Yeah, yeah. But so I took him. I just happened to follow with the,
Yeah.
in a osekomi. You had a question? Okay. So that was worth something, just like a throw. I may have thrown him for a Yuko, and wasn't able maybe to follow up with a osekomi or something, but it had value. So this does too. Okay. Any time I take him from stable to unstable. Here's another position. That's worth 1 point. So if you want to call Koka red, Koka white, 1 point red, 1 point white. Again, in Kansas City, we call the point numerical value, and that would be that. Why do we do that? Because it gives another level of objective evaluation of this match. Okay? It takes a little less of my subjectivity out and forces me as an official to make a very clear objective call. This has value, and I have to assign that value to it. And that's the point of doing this. Okay? So that's what this is about in doing points for breakdowns. I call them breakdowns because you're breaking them down from a stable to unstable. Call them turnovers if you wish, that's fine, but it doesn't always address the things that happen. Here's another thing that isn't traditionally called a turnover. I'm going to do from the bottom, like guard position. I'm going to spin you over. No, I'm going to beat it. I'm doing. So this is worth 1 point. Okay, the 1 point. All right, so I'm here. All right, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to spin under, you do a Jujigatami.
Okay.
So I may be a real Jujigatami guy, which I happen to like a lot. Okay, grab here, I spin under, I roll him over. Now, was he stable just a few seconds ago? Is he stable now? No. That's worth a point, isn't it? And that's how, I had a very good coach call me on the phone after the Nationals 1 year and say, oh, I got a real complaint about one of the referees. What? Well, this guy turned my guy over into a Jujigatami, and he got a point for it. I said, okay. He said, well, I didn't like that. I said, well, teach him better ground fighting. I hate to be rude about it, but but he didn't realize this was here's a good judo technique. I took it from stable to unstable. Now, if I can continue on to Juji, I'm there as a referee to make that call. He may be fighting this like crazy, and I didn't, but I still took him from stable to unstable. I may go to an osekomi, something else. So there's a clear situation. Thank you. Just stick around here. Let me use you. There's a clear situation taking from stable to unstable. That is a breakdown. That's worth a point. Okay? So that's why you can fight off your back. Remember the phrase Newaza? We all think it means ground fighting. You know what Newaza really means? Ne is to be in a reclining position. Waza is technique. So what the Brazilians call the guard, which was originally called Newaza, it started from this. This was the original ground fighting in judo. When we saw a lot of more wrestling and sambo stuff, and we saw more of the elbows and knees, this is what we saw a lot in the old days. Speaking of old days, Gerald Lafon has a question.
That's worth $5. He's on his fours. I get on him. I get my hooks in, and I splatter him for a Koka. Is that a...
No, that's I've got to get him. That's a good question. We consider that seriously. It's a good breakdown. It's a good breakdown. We really thought, but we said we're going to be seeing that a lot when they'll just hold him there. What we'd like to see him is get him on his back. So we really, and that could be changed in the future.
No, I'm not.
But right now, turning him to his back somehow is going to be what you're getting. That's going to be the validation that takes it from stable to unstable.
For the breakdown.
Yeah, for the breakdown. Because that also left a lot of gray area there, because I may just have one hook in, like a near leg ride, and pop them down, and I look for the referee for that. No, because you'll see that a lot of wrestlers will do that will think they can get a point. And no, we want them more complete. So by getting them onto the back, then we have that validation
So in
there.
other words,
And I'll follow up, then I'll get you to Scott.
If I break somebody down and he lands in, let's say, a Yuko position, he's got to be in at least the Waza-ari position.
It's got to be, pretty close. So if that's where I will get back to you. So I've taken him over from stable to unstable, bam, there, okay, that's enough of a turn, but come back up higher. I haven't got him quite yet.
Okay.
I haven't got. So I'm the referee, and that's where you have to stay awake if you're a freestyle judo referee, because that is worth something there. And I got to get him over more completely to show control. It isn't showing back control, it's showing control in a judo sense.
So would you then say that it would have to be the equivalent of a Waza-ari?
Probably close to it, Jerry. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. To get him more onto his back. Yeah, but a good clean turn onto the back, we're going to give a point for that. That has a point value. And I think that's a good way to put it too. Scott, you had a question.
I wanted to know what Sensei Lafon is discussing. What does it look like in clarification? Does it or does it not score a point?
Yes.
Show us what he was asking. What does it look like?
Oh, well, what doesn't score a point, I'm going to do a forearm near leg breakdown. I'm just going to be on elbows, All right, so I'm going to take him over, and I just get him to here, and that's not enough. That's not enough. There, I've got him. That's 1 point. Now, I don't necessarily have to lead directly into osaikomi. It doesn't always result into a pin. He may be a very good athlete or whatever, circumstances happen, he scrunches out, he gets out of trouble. It might not necessarily always lead to osaikomi. It could, and often does. I break a guy down, 1 point red, osaikomi, because he stuck him into a pin. So you maybe have to, as a referee, have to be ready to make that call. Here's what it would look like. Let's say one guy turns the other, you're good. We see one guy turn the other one, breaking him down onto his back. Let's say red is doing it to white, okay? 1 point red, or Koka red, 1 point, osaikomi. Be ready to here, convert. And call the point with the right side, okay? Don't call, because they're at the score table, they think red's doing the pin. It might be white. So don't be a one-handed referee. This keeps us from being one-handed referees. You know, and if you are, clearly call the color so everybody knows what it is, okay? Don't be a one-handed referee. That's one of the first things I learned in any officiating that I did, any of the sports I did, was use both hands. Another thing about officiating, guys, watch both athletes, you know? Don't just watch one. Don't just call a match based on what one person's doing. A lot of people do that. They just watch this famous person. Well, I'll see what that guy does. Oh, man. This other guy may be doing stuff too. He's in there too. He wants to win. So watch them both. That's very important. Very important. Okay, that's just a little refereeing aside. Okay? So do you understand the concept of a breakdown or a 1 point value? This really does help change the game in terms of giving us a clear, objective assessment of who's winning, okay? We had at the Freestyle Nationals a number of years ago, one athlete was down by a 4 point throw. Now, I will tell you, in those days when they were giving such softy pawns in the international scene, that would have been a pawn in somewhere else. But it really was just equivalent to a Waza-ari. And I was the ref. You know, so I've got a skewed view, I guess. But anyway, it was a 4 point throw. The guy, bam, down, hit him with an ouchigari. Down he goes. 4 points, whoever won it, okay? The other guy was really good on the ground. And he took him down. He went from his back to immediately started working this guy. And for most of the match, they were engaged in a really good Newaza battle. Now, they did stand up once in a while. Things happened. They went right back down. The guy who got thrown initially came back and won the match 5-4, all on groundwork moves, because he was so good at it and the other guy wasn't, okay? And it ended up 5-4, a very tough match after 5 minutes. But we gave him plenty of time standing and plenty of time on the ground. The fella who had better Newaza happened to win that match. That may not always be the case, but that was a good example of what you can do coming back and winning 5-4. Now, if he had been a regular judo rules match, the Waza-ari would have been ahead. This poor guy would have had to dig out of a hole so deep he couldn't have come back. And that's one of the things I always had trouble with in judo scoring in Waza-ari, and Jerry and I have talked about this a fair amount, is we like the accumulative points, because in a football game, just because you get a touchdown, now it's worth 7 points, but you can score a whole lot of other little points and come back and win the game. You name the sport, that's done. In judo, if you get a Waza-ari, all the Kokas in the world, all the action in the world aren't going to get you that Waza-ari. And if I don't like you as an official, and how many times have we seen that, you're not going to get that Waza-ari, buddy. I'm protecting him. So that's what we want to take out of judo, and that's what we are doing with the rules of freestyle
and it
judo.
takes the referee out of the match a lot more.
It certainly does. It takes, yes.
You know, the Waza-ari, Yuko, if the referee makes a legitimate mistake, you know, he just calls a Waza-ari. By having a cumulative scoring system, that action of the referee is not as important.
Is not as important. Yeah.
as it
It's still important, don't get us wrong, but it doesn't hold the weight of everything like it had previously. So that's one of the rule changes. That's why the numerical scores work. Well, that's not judo. Well, actually it is. They're still doing judo. You know, it's just that this makes more sense, and we have a better chance to see two athletes compete to their fullest. We also, for children and parents who are new to the sport, they know, like I said, 7-4 who's winning. Okay? They know at the end of that time, you know, red had 7, white had 4. He wins the match. Now, if he had 4 Yukos and he had 1 Waza-ari, okay, that kid threw him 4 times and he only threw him 1 time, but he still wins. I don't understand that, Coach. Tell me, it's a weird sport. Why? And so we see this a lot, don't we, when we use the other rules? So that's the value of doing this. Yes, sir.
Okay, last question that I have for the turnovers or breakdowns. Gut wrench. How would you score a gut wrench? Because there's a possibility.
You talking of wrestling gut wrench to the roll?
Yeah,
Well, if I turn him,
there's a possibility that his bat will never hit the mat.
if it does, we're looking for that. If I just roll the guy and he rolls out and no control,
So that's not a
no,
breakdown.
I got to have control of him. Yeah, there's got to be some kind of measure of control. Now, does that mean, and I heard this from a coach a number of years ago, come on here, the guy's on his bottom, be flat on your belly. And the guy just was momentarily here. It wasn't like he wanted to stay here, okay? But the top guy was a wrestler, and the wrestling coach, who really didn't know anything about judo, but he says, break his neck. Because the bottom, and they were kids. Stay down. He caught a half here, and he's just working, he's just cranking it for all he worked. He's working the guy's shoulder, okay? Is that going to be allowed? No. Now, if I work to turn him somehow to get him onto his back, you know, I don't want to cause injury. So yeah, a power half or something, if it's legal, like in any judo sense it would be, it's legal. That doesn't mean you can do something in wrestling to crank a guy and just cause punishment. Remember, our idea of breaking Newaza in riding and controlling someone, unlike wrestling, I get points if I keep him down here. You know, like if I keep him down a minute, I get, you know, a point. I accrue points by riding time. Well, we don't have riding time in judo. It's a different kind of wrestling. It's a different kind of sport, grappling. And our purpose of getting behind somebody and trying to break him down is to gain further control, to make him submit or to pin him. So it's not just to gain riding time for points. So wrestling coaches will have to understand that when they come into our sport. Real quick, and then I'll get to you. Yes, sir.
What does a gut wrench look like?
I'm mic'd up. Basically, I won't do it fully, but you know, I'm riding here, I catch it in here, and I suck it under here. This is one way of doing it. And I roll the guy. I'm squeezing the heck, that's why the gut wrench. I'm squeezing so tight, I roll him over to get back. Wrestling, I would roll him over to tip him where I'd get shoulder exposure.
I understand.
We had a first American to be a world Sambo champion. Greg Gibson was also an Olympic silver medalist in Greco. In 1981, he won the Worlds. He was known for a gut wrench in Sambo because he was such an outstanding wrestler too. And he would gut wrench a guy, and often they would give up because he was so darn strong. He would squeeze him so hard, the guy was tapping from the pain of the gut wrench. You know, and the referees say, "Why is he tapping?" "Oh, it hurt." Well, we don't. Yeah, we see that. We're going to call mate because we don't want anybody injured. But that's an interesting aside there. Okay, are we good on the points for assessment on the points? Now let's stay down here. Oh, you had a question. I'm sorry.
I
Yes.
one more question. I think Sensei Lafon had mentioned it. If I do a wrestler's leg ride, a crossbody ride, and I get the guy on the bottom to his back, but I still have that Turk position,
Oh, I got you.
will that be?
If I've taken you from stable to unstable, yes, but I'm going to give you time to lead to something else that will be more judo related. So you've got to extract your leg free.
Okay.
Yeah, and once you do that, and then you could maybe go into osaikomi, that's good. But you have to show that Yeah, I know what you're saying. Get him onto his back with control, but I haven't quite turned you, like you said, it's worth a Waza-ari, you know.
And he's got to be free of control from the other.
Yeah. So this is a case where a 1 point breakdown doesn't always lead to osaikomi.
Okay, so but I would get a 1 point breakdown.
You probably would,
Okay,
yes.
that-
If you got enough, turn them over enough.
That Turk position potentially has
And you've
his
got 'em
arm,
turned over,
even
yeah.
holding their
As
shoulder.
long as we don't see injury to the, if there's no cranking of the neck, the hips, the leg, as long as all that's still clean,
Okay.
then we'll give the point for it. Yeah.
Why don't you show us what that is?
Scott, Scott, let me borrow you. You're in a gi. Just get on all fours here so if I've got him in a leg right. like
Yes,
this,
near leg right, yep.
And I'm going to roll you this way, and I kick him over this way. Boom.
Yeah, see, that's a good, you turned him. Does that look good, guys? He got him onto his back, didn't he? Now, is he pinning him? No, but he did enough. Now, it extracts the leg free, then goes to no saikomi. I'm there refereeing, say he's red, and I call red 1 point, and I'm waiting here, I'm seeing where he moves. If he can get that extraction, osaikomi. Okay, so I have to be ready to make that call. If he doesn't hold, if he doesn't get a move fairly quickly, and we're giving him, 5 to 7 seconds to get that move, to get that pin, and I see it's leading nowhere, I call him mate, stand him up. Okay, so I mean, if it's a scramble and they're going nowhere, don't let them just keep going. I mean, on the Newaza, just like standing, it has to lead to something. It has to result in something one way or the other for either one of them. And I want to see positive action. I want to see it to lead somewhere, okay? That's like I'm also an MMA judge, and I went through that training, which I would think was very valuable to me. And they stress in mixed martial arts, whatever that does, that takedown or whatever, that has to lead to something. So as a judge, as a referee, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, that move happened. Does it lead to further control? I'm going to give that, I'm going to keep that in my mind. As a judo referee, I'm doing the same thing. I'm giving him time to make it lead to something. If it doesn't, then mate, get him up. Get him up. So we're pretty good on one more point I want. Come on out here again. One thing, lay flat on your belly. Hide.
Chicken judo.
Chicken judo. When I was a coach, a young coach, coaching kids, okay, maybe you do it. I hope I don't offend anyone, but there are coaches who teach this. I was talking to a very good international judo player just a few years ago, and we were talking. I said, well, what's your favorite Newaza technique? And he showed me this. He showed me this. I said, why? He says, then the referee calls mate and I can get up. The referee's saving his bacon, isn't he? I'm not.
Leo White made a
We don't need a. But there are people who make a career of this, we know. Not in freestyle judo, okay? All right, he's here. He's safe, he thinks, okay? Well, he's not safe for me as the referee either, all right? Okay. Now, I'm going to be telling him if he's here curling up, not doing it now, momentarily, if he's here and he's trying to get out of trouble, I'm cool with that. We've all been here, okay? But if he's laying there hiding and he's not engaged, okay, he's just hiding there doing the old chicken routine, as I call it. It's a personal thing. You know what I was going to say, I showed this to when kids did this, we call it chicken judo because only chickens do this, and they're hiding from something. And so I kind of kept him from doing this, okay? But if he does this, and I hope I'm not offending anyone, but if you are doing this, you are subject to being passive. This is non-combativity. Just the same as I'm bending over and not doing this. This is the equivalent of it on the ground. He doesn't want to fight me. He wants to be passive and hope I just go away, and hope the referee just calls mate and gets him out of trouble. Well, it ain't going to happen. So what's going to happen to him if he does this and I'm the referee and the other guy's trying to engage, and I'll say, and we're allowed to talk to let's bring this up. As an official, I'm allowed to say to him, let's say he's wearing white in this case, White, get active. Work to a better position, White. Work hard. And if he chooses not to, all right, then I'm going to snap him with a penalty, okay? And our penalties, in this particular case, it would be, 1 point would be the initial. I already gave him a warning. I told him, get the heck up. He's not engaging. Okay, and now I'm not going to call Mate and he wants up. I'm not going to buy into that. So he's down there hiding from me, okay? And I'm going to say to the scoreboard, we good on it, guys? My two side judges, oh yeah, he's hiding. All right, passivity, 1 point red. Caution, or that would be also, we would call that Shido, okay? Okay, Shido is worth, was it Shido? Shido would be the freebie, I'm sorry, Shido's the freebie. Then Chewy, okay, 1 point. Chewy, 1 point, passivity.
So your verbal was the Shido.
Should have been Chewy, but Shido is the freebie. That was the freebie.
That's what I skipped.
Yeah, the freebie, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry, I know where you're going now. Yeah, the first one was the Shido, that was the freebie.
Right.
And, okay, and I'm talking to him, and he's not responding. Okay, the next one, we're going to zap him, okay? All right, Chewy, white, passivity, 1 point red. He's still not responding. He still won't try. Okay, I give him another 10 seconds. Now, I'm not going to give him that long because the guy's probably done something by now. Okay, they've changed positions. That's the reality of it. But let's say it hasn't, and he refuses to do judo. Okay, I'll say, Keikoku, white, 2 points red. Okay, now he just accumulated 3 points of penalties. The next one, he's done. Okay, I'm tired of this stuff. Okay, if he still won't engage, Mate, Soremare, non-combativity. He doesn't want to fight. Okay, so we want you to be active. Now we understand if you're on the bottom, yeah, we'll give you time to do something, but if you lay there and refuse to fight, not my problem. Learn more judo.
You don't call Hansokomake?
Oh, Hansokomake is what I should have said. Hansokomake, finish it, yeah. Hansokomake and Soremare, yeah. And that, yeah, I would call Hansokomake as the call first, yes. Yeah. And that's what would happen. Okay, so the bottom guy, you are also obligated to engage. Okay, so we want active, full participation in the sport of judo. We did that on purpose because how many times have we seen somebody do that and they're just going to kill time as long as they can on the ground doing that, hiding that stuff. Is that good active? Is that good of anything? No. And I don't want to see it in freestyle judo because it just is not good judo in my opinion. Yes, sir.
So to come back to the Shido, do you actually verbalize that? Do you say Shido white?
Yeah, I'll talk to him, and then I'll probably say Shido, So, but we're also allowed to, before we call a Shido, we may have two guys engaged, like they're standing, and they're maybe too close to the edge. I want them to bring it back to the center. Well, I'll talk to them. I'll say, center it up, guys. Move it to the center. That's not a Shido. That's just me instructing him for safety or something. We're still allowed to talk to him, but if we're seeing something on a rule or technical thing, I will then verbally warn him, and that's the first, Shido is that first warning. And I may say, Shido, white, get active. And he'll know, oh, I better get active. That's the freebie. The next one I have to do it.
So you're not stopping the match?
Do not stop the match. Keep it flowing. Keep it flowing. Now, if you see something that is dangerous, then stop the match.
And you can, in the center, the referee can award Hansokomake without conferring?
No, we want confirmation of the other guys. We want, Hansokomake has to be confirmation of all three. Yes, yes. Just like the regular rules. We want to make sure that's fair. Okay. Let's talk about, are we good on that? Because I want to talk about engaging in standing judo. Okay? All right. So if we could, come on out again. We have the two guys out here. Scott, would you, please? All right. So I've got here, he's red, he's white for purposes here. All right. Now, hajime, they bow, they hold the whole thing, and they come out. Now, here's the deal. They have to get a hold of each other before they try a technique. I think if this had been written in the rules and enforced a long time ago, we wouldn't have had a lot of problems in judo, okay? We're seeing a lot of guys come out here and they drop and they grab an ankle or they shoot a single or double, boom, No, he has to grab the guy before he attacks him. This is what makes judo different from wrestling. Okay?
One or two hands?
Both hands, both hands. And the thing is, if I just, no, that's not good enough. Or if I just do, and then go. I have to get a grip first. Now, if we're gripping and I get my grip here, and then he does something, pulls away, then I can do a move, we're good. Because that's continuous action, isn't it? I started with a grip. I have to start with a grip.
So I can't just dive in for a Morote Gari.
Correct. I can do Morote Gari, but I have to start from a grip. I always say that's the difference between Morote Gari and a double leg takedown. Because Morote Gari is often, go ahead and stand up, just relax. Is Morote Gari here, shoot, right? Come under. Double leg takedown is just a shoot. That's the difference between a throw and a shoot. So we want to make sure they're really doing good, skillful judo, because how many times have we seen White's ahead, Scott's ahead by, let's say in freestyle, so many points, 7 points, and he's got 6. We have 30 seconds left in the match. To kill time, he just drops and he grabs something. He's allowed to do that in wrestling. In Sambo, he's allowed to do that. But that's clearly, he's killing time, isn't he? He's doing everything to avoid. That's not a good aggressive maneuver. So we want to discourage that, okay? So we want to keep the element of just dropping and shooting out of it, or shoot and drop, to make sure it's more of a throw. So we have to actually grab and try a technique, okay? And that's what maybe upsets some people, but we see really good judo because of that. We see good standing judo because of that. We do. And it's worked. We initiated this rule a number of years ago, and we see better throwing techniques, not just guys dropping and shooting.
So Steve, just so I'm clear, if we go for grips, I get a collar, that leg is sticking out there. I go for an ankle.
We want you to have both hands on them initially.
have to-
Yeah, right. The
So
reason
I have to
is,
be here on
yeah,
the jacket, both hands.
right.
And then before I can go for my ankle.
Right, yeah. But let's say, grab again, both hands on him. He pulls that arm back and you lost it. Now you can shoot. Go for it. Because you initially had 2 hands on him, didn't you?
Right.
So what that does is makes you have to grip a little better, both of you. It forces them to do better judo. Yes, sir?
Do you have to have the grip first? Is there an amount of time before you can?
I just have to see. Now, that's a good point. This is not a grip. A touch and go, don't go. Remember that phrase, kind of touch and go, don't go. But grip, and once I grip, I have every intention of doing a Morote Gari on him, all right? And I may be doing it from way back here. But I gripped, and I can shoot, sure. But I've got that grip first. Now again, he may disengage, and in the course of the action flowing, I no longer have 2 hands on him, but I have 1, or he may pop it free totally. But I gripped initially. And that keeps it from just becoming another form of wrestling. It's now judo. Has to be a legit grip, yeah. And again, the grips are all the same. If I here, I can't do, I can't just hold here, I can't. But we do allow the pistol grip. We allow the pistol grip, and as long as I'm not defending it. As a referee, if I see this is what I'm looking for.
IJF rules are now that.
They go for that now?
Yeah, you can't. You just can't defend with it. You can
Yeah.
throw it.
If I see and I'm working with this, sure, I'm working it. But if I see this to avoid, that's passivity. Yeah. Same thing, yeah. We allow belt grips as long as I'm working them. If I'm doing this to avoid by grabbing the belt, again, I'm looking for the arm length here. If I'm trying moves here, trying to throw, sure, okay? I can grab legs too. I can grab pants. So Morote Gari, Teguruma, Kataguruma, Sukui Nagi, they're all legal. But again, we have to grab first and then go, okay? Pulling guard. We have a lot of great BJJ guys doing our sport. We love them, but they can't just come out and pull guard or jump to guard. They have to try a throw. It has to be a throw. So please, if you're BJJ, make it look like a throw. I tell the guys, fool me. I want to be fooled. Please, make me believe in you. Okay.
So did I see that cross grips and double grips and everything are all legal too?
All legal, yeah. Now,
So what those look like this grip.
yeah, I can do 2-on-1. Yeah, as long as I'm active. If I'm stiff and avoiding, then you're in trouble. Yeah. Yeah. If you come in, yeah, you can attack with it. You can attack with it. Absolutely. Yeah. But again, jumping guard, pulling guard, make it look like a throw first. Okay. There are a lot of ways to do that. It's just fake a tomoe-nagi. Yeah, there you go. Make it look good, guys. I tell them before freestyle tournaments, I get a mixed crowd of BJJ, submission judo guys, and I tell them, and so you tell them the same. Please fool me. Make it look good. I want to give you the point. You know, and I'm not cheating the other guy, but I want to give you the benefit of the doubt, but leave no doubt. Okay, that's the important thing. Don't pop out and pull guards, butt scoot, and all that stuff. That don't go.
Well, even BJJ is.
I think they've regulated against that. You BJJ guys, they're not butt scooting a lot anymore like they're doing, right? They depends on the different groups. Yeah, okay. But it's never been in judo, and it's always one of those things that Kano himself was very adamant about, that we want to throw to get to the ground. We want a throwing technique to get to the ground. He favored throwing techniques. Scott and I were talking about this earlier today or yesterday. You know, his preference was for Newaza, throwing techniques. It was. And as a result, a lot of people have misinterpreted that that's all judo should be. No, judo, through Kano's efforts, developed a very sophisticated form of Newaza, ground fighting. Thanks, guys. You can sit down if you want to. Thank you. And that was the start of it. You know, everything we see in Brazilian Jiu-jitsu and Sambo, I love Sambo. It's been a passion of mine for years as well. Everything we've seen in that started with judo, and there's no doubt about it. You know, it's gone another direction in those various sports, which is wonderful. But Kano, you know, give Kano credit for Newaza as well. So it's not just a throwing sport, okay? I mean, there are throwing sports out there. If you've ever seen Mongolian wrestling, which is really cool, that's just a throwing sport. And, but it has no ground fighting. But give judo credit for what it really started. So let's do it as freestyle judo rules. Yes, Jim.
On legal gripping and throws.
Yes, sir.
Kani Masami?
Kani Masami is still not legal. Jerry and I talk about that often. Well, a lot of people do. I've actually seen some pretty bad injuries from Kani Masami, physically. I've actually been the recipient of a bad injury from Kani. Same as Kawazugaki, you know. Yeah. Those are all legal in Sambo, but the scissors throw, the crab scissors, I have seen guys' knees taken out pretty badly. That's why they changed that rule, you know. It's for safety, and we're still staying with that because we know it is some. I'd rather err on the side of caution.
Double knee drop?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm sure there's certain places in the United States that don't allow that.
Yeah, there are. Some do, some don't. California, you can't hear.
When I was a young guy in the 70s, I liked knee drop seoi-nage. I never got ippon for knee drop seoi-nage anywhere. Best I ever got was Waza-ari. So I made a habit of throwing and going right to Newaza because the referees, they said, oh, no, that's not good judo. Well, I don't know. When you look at some of the great judo champions of those years, they were doing knee drop seoi-nage, you know, and it's a legit throw. So double knee drop seoi-nage is absolutely.
Well, they take it out of the junior division. Like
Well,
California,
that's somebody else. We haven't.
knee-wise.
Yeah, we haven't. That's a particular bias toward people wanting to have a certain look to judo.
I agree.
You know, I don't want
I
to.
think it should be in. So.
Oh yeah, but I don't want to give that bias in our rules. You know, there are some things that we do not allow because of injuries, safety. Okay, and I'm cool with that. But generally, freestyle judo, and it kind of went to this name. Freestyle doesn't mean anything goes, but you're free to do as much judo as you want to do. You know, now if something is dangerous, we don't do it. But you know, and we will address it if we see something like that. You know, like Uchimata and diving on the head. You know, you know, the reason that occurred back in about 1980 or so, we had several broken necks because of that. That's a good rule. To dive on your head when you're doing Uchimata is not a smart thing to do for your health. When you're thrown and a guy bridges out top of his head and his feet, you know, that's ippon, whether he likes it or not. Because if you bridge, there were broken necks because of that. So there's certain things we don't, you know, because of that. There's strictly, and Kani Masami is in that realm because there was a while that there were some pretty bad injuries actually because of that. And we still remember those. We'd have to talk to our lawyers, we'd have to talk to everybody else, but we'd see if we want to bring that in, we could. That's one of those things that's on the table, but it's kind of back into the table, you know, right now, yeah. Any other questions about the rules? The conduct of the match is very simple. And we get into some demonstration matches, we'll see this. Remember as the official, no hand signals for start and stop. Unless mate, soremate, that's your hand signal there, but it's not to the two athletes. None of this start, you know. I don't know, years ago they were doing this and they had all this elaborate stuff. Look, the two guys appear on the mat, they bow. Make sure their gis are clean, they've got a gi check, they're legal gis. One's got a red belt, one's got a white belt, you know. Hajime, step out of the picture. Let them engage. Let them do it. Keep walking around. Always have a view. If they go to the ground, don't stand back here and study it. Don't get so close that you're in the middle of the action that one of them could tumble on you. But get down there and look. I want to see. And the other two guys, they're coming around here so they get a good view too. So you might see me down here on my knees getting a better view because I want to see what's going on here. Okay? If we in Newaza, in any type of a ground situation, and one athlete gets another one in a really good choke, good lapel choke, and the other guy, he's not giving up. Man, my sensei said, if I tap out, I'm a sissy. Well, buddy, I'll make you a sissy because I'm going to tap you out. And here's the deal. I see this as my job as the official. I'm there for his safety. Think about this boxing or MMA. Is an MMA referee allowed to stop the fight for the fighter's safety? You bet. Is a boxing referee allowed to stop the fight for the fighter's safety? You bet. Okay? Me too. Me too. I'm there. I'm watching. Those are potentially dangerous situations. You got one guy choking the other guy, which could cause serious injury. We know this. All right? As I see that as a referee and this guy is not giving up, I'm going to be talking to that guy. So let's say Red's on the bottom and White's working him over pretty darn good. And he's got that nice sliding lapel choke and man, he's working him. And I'm seeing to White, I'm saying, you good? You with us? And he, you know, and if I see the eyes flutter and I see he starts to get, you know, the little look, see the color in the lips, Ippon, Sonomare. He won by Shimewaza. I don't have to wait for a tap out. Okay? Guy rolls it over in a nice Jujigatami. It's happened years ago, one of our very first freestyle tournaments. Rolled him over. This guy was dead to rights on a Jujigatami. He was laying there looking at the ceiling tiles, and his arm was bent backward. The referee, a very good national referee, one of our good referees, Sandy Quinnell, Ippon Soremade. Oh man, he jumped up. He thought, you know, he'd been violated terribly. Nope. You had your arm stretched out, and she told him, she said, if you're too dumb to tap out, I'm gonna save you from yourself. I thought it was a wonderful quote, you know. And of course he didn't like hearing that, but he was too dumb to tap out. Yeah. Safety first, guys. And I've had people get very upset at me or our officials because we saved them from themselves. So if I see a dangerous situation, now if I see, and it's not, let it work. As an official, let it work. Don't just wait for somebody to get a broken arm. Well, it's his fault he got it broken. Well, you know what? It's my fault too as the official. And when I have to go to court and you sue me because you lost a whole lot of work, you're not so macho anymore. Okay? And that could happen, couldn't it? So we have to think about a society we live in, but beyond that, I have to think about the safety of the athlete. And I don't want him hurt. I just want the other guy or him to win with nobody getting injured. So it's my job as an official to make sure that happens. That's why we have to say safety is part of what we do as an official. It's a responsibility. You know, don't shirk it. Okay, that's why we have to let you guys get down, get close enough to the action. You're not somebody doesn't tumble on you, but you can see what's going on. That's vital. Yes, question? Oh, no. What's that? Thirsty. Well, get a drink of water. By the way, that brings up, so we got a mate situation. We got two guys, and for whatever reason I call mate, they fix their gis or whatever. And the one guy walks off and his coach gives him a bottle of water, drinks. Can he come back on? No, that's not kosher. We don't do that in judo. Maybe in wrestling it's legal. You're not wrestling. That happened one time. And our official, the guy walked off, he goes, and the referee's looking at him, what is he doing? And he gives him a drink, walks back on like nothing. And
is that legal in wrestling?
Some wrestling it is. You know, I know internationally, I think it used to be. I don't know if it's, yeah, I think it is. You know, on a break situation. You know, at least that's what I'm told anymore. I never saw it in wrestling, but you know.
Of course, I didn't get ride time either when I wrestled. So.
That's right. There you go. But the guy came back like, you know, he's just fine to go, and the referee penalized him for unsportsmanlike conduct. That's what we came up with. Why? You're not allowed to do that.
If you step off the mat.
He stepped off the mat. And you can't go get a drink of water, you know? And the coach is having a fit over there. And I walked over to him. Oh, he actually is quite rude. I said, Coach, the referee did his job. You do yours, know the rules. You're not allowed to do this. Nowhere in judo are you allowed to do that, period. So don't do it, you know. Yes, sir.
So, you see a lot of guys manipulating lapels outside the belt. They'll pull them just while they're standing, they'll pull them out of the belt, in ground technique and so forth. Where do the rules in freestyle stand?
So let him do it. Pull it out, work it. In judo, we call it, using the apron, sosujime,
I mean, like literally opening the jacket completely.
to try and move on the ground. Sure.
Tie him up with it.
Tie him up, you bet. Tie him up with it. Yeah.
Passing guard and cover. 1-pointers, passing guard.
Passing guard is 1 point. Yeah, because you were stable. You're no longer stable because now I'm in control. You pass guard, yeah. I'm in a better situation.
Guard sweep too, right?
Guard sweep from the bottom, guard sweep. You know, I bottom, swept them beautiful, nice, rolled them over. Hey, that's a good move on me. I tell you, think of it like a throw.
Can we show what that looks like?
Yeah, want to demo something? Let's do a guard pass. Well, start on your bottom. Yeah, starting. So he's down there. Okay, now top guy just basically gets past his legs. You know. There you go. 1 point, and he happened to go into good osaikomi. We call it. Okay, whatever the guard pass might be, it doesn't matter. You know. Or the bottom guy sweeps. Might do this nice rollover. So just go ahead and sweep him. There you go. That's 1 point. 1 point white. Osaikomi. He turned it right into a pinning situation, didn't he?
You mentioned wrapping, you can't fully wrap around, right?
Well, yeah, you can wrap and control.
Right, but not,
Oh, if you just start,
you can't encircle.
what are you doing? You know, really, what are you doing? How's that gaining you towards something better? It could be, I would construe it as passivity, but if we do this to tie up for a move, but if I start wrapping a belt around like 2 or 3 times, what's the point? Really, other than passivity. I'm just parking you there, you know. Now, if you have something going for it, yeah, but generally it's control. But really, we're not going to, as a referee now, I'm not going to let you just get on your position and just stay there all day in Newaza. You have to be active. If I see you are not active and you're not doing something, mate, stand up. You have to be active. I'm not going to let you just scoot around and pull guard and hold all day. No, you have to be doing something. If I don't see an initiation of something in about 10 seconds, you're not fighting. You're just waiting. And we're not here just to wait. We're here to fight. Yes, sir.
How long do you allow them, like, say a guy he gets a sweep and then he's going for a submission, he can't get the submission?
I'm going to give them, and we have it in the rules pretty well split, about 10 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds. As long as I see action, I want to see something lead to something. If I see something just parking there, you're done. Neither one of you doing anything. Mate, stand them up. Yeah. Because we want active participation by both athletes. Yes, sir.
I was going to suggest that you might discuss locking of ankles when in the guard position, just so people who are BJJ crossover
Okay.
watching this.
Can we have Scott, can we have you again? Closing the guard, okay?
You've got, I'll do it.
Okay, from here, okay. Now, to me, in a judo sense, I'm going to give him, just closing this is not illegal. He might be setting him up for something. It's totally cool. But if he stays there, that's passivity, you know? Now, I'm not going to say, Mate, get up. I'm going to say, unhook him. Give him a chance to do something. You know, I want him to do something. I don't want to just give him a penalty.
And he can't scissor that, right?
What's that?
He can't do what he's doing right now. and scissor.
Well, yeah, he tries to scissor and cause pain. Oh, no, we can't do that. And I'm going to circumvent that by, stop it. You know?
So in this situation, I know like a lot of BJJ guys, they'll lock their feet around, but then they're working the gi, they're trying to pass the gi.
No, he's got to have those unlocked.
Okay.
He's got to be doing something. You know, that's the difference between judo and BJJ rules, because I'm going to give him a certain amount of time to do something, but I'm not going to give him all day.
So he has about 10 seconds.
He has about 10 seconds to show me he wants to do something.
For that short
Well,
window, or-
I'm going to be chopping him. Or maybe in my mind. I'm not going to, clock T, he's got too many things going on anyway. So I'm here in this situation, lock him up again. I'm here, and I'll say, unhook, okay. If he puts him back, then Shido, you know, I mean, you're being passive. Or if he keeps hooking and he's trying something, you know, hook up again, you know. He's hooking up again there, and I kind of missed that, you know, but he's just parking him there. I'm going to give him time to do Newaza. I want him to do something positive and get up. So eventually, if nothing happens, Mate, he's not going to stay there all day.
So if he hooks his ankles and then just unhooks them to go to a move, that's okay?
Yeah. If he's doing something, yes, going to a move, absolutely okay. Absolutely.
What if I'm the one actually being passive? What if I do?
White, get active. Shido, White, get active. And I'm about 10 seconds. You're not happening. You're not doing anything. Okay. Chewy, White, 1 point red. I warned you, White. You know, I did.
Yeah, that brings up a good point. A lot of times, like, he gets pulled down there, and this guy on top just wants to stand back up. So do
Sure.
you penalize him? If he just ducks down and wait, hey, I'm waiting for you to stand me back up.
Stand
The
up
guy on
quick.
top,
Let's see. I'm going to give him time to see what he's going to do. You know, 5, 7 seconds. If he's not doing anything, he's not doing anything.
does
So are
he
you
get
penalizing
penalized?
him or are you standing him up?
Well, I'm going to give him time first. You know, I want to give him time. I don't want to penalize him right off the bat. I'm not penalty happy. So I'll see there. I'll count to myself. 2, 3. White, get active. Get active, White. Now, he knows get active means stand up too. If he's not going to get active, then we go into penalty world. Yeah.
So if he just stays here,
He's
instead
not
of
doing
stop,
anything
stop.
He's being passive.
Yeah, penalty.
He's being
You get
passive.
Shido. At that point, you stand him up after the Shido? Okay, Shido, stand
Yeah, I
up.
probably would. Yeah, because I'm tired of watching this. I mentioned everybody else is too. It's because clearly he doesn't want to watch. He doesn't want to fight. You know, we're going to make him. You had a question?
Yeah, as far as like in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a lot of guys at the bottom that are in guard, if they open, I, for one, will use the sleeves quite a bit.
Sure.
Is that
Absolutely legal.
okay? So, as soon as he opened his legs, instead of keeping them closed, I would just start yanking on his sleeves.
Now, can't go inside the sleeve. Can't go inside the sleeve.
At the bottom, yeah.
I would break him down that way.
Oh, and he's trying to move? Absolutely. We're engaged now. We're in a scramble. There's action happening here when this is happening. Come on out here, guys, so you can get a little better. So, yeah, I want them to engage. I don't want them to just park and hide. Yeah.
I'm trying to understand how much of my game would be limited.
Just go fast. In BJJ, don't stay on your back very long. Try to get top position. Go fast. If you think of it this way, judo is more of a top ride game, although we do a lot of Newaza from the bottom, don't get me wrong. And that, you know, it's more of a top ride game than a guard game. If you remember that from a BJJ perspective, you'll do freestyle judo better.
So if I'm on the bottom, I just want to hurry up, sweep him.
Sweep them and get up. You get a point. You might turn them into an osaikomi or submission hold. That's great. You know, yeah, you want to get off your butt as soon as you can. Now, you know, and that often in these Newaza, they're meant to lead to something, not just lay there, and that's what, use it for what it's worth. Anthony.
Okay, I got another question. So if he has a submission like the collar, the cross choke,
Mm-hmm.
and he pulls the guy down, can he lock his ankles? A lot of times BJJ guys will lock their ankles and bring the guy forward.
No, like that, or to hook them.
Yeah, hook the ankles around
Yeah,
that.
that's legal. Yes. So around the legs, around the waist. Close your guard. Close your guard. Close your guard. Yeah.
Because he's using it to pull
Now,
his legs forward.
this is where I have to be a referee on my game. Okay. So while they're here, I'm going to look here. I see the choke on. I realize there's something happening here. Now, he's not letting him up, is he? This is smart. This is good technique. Now, if he starts really putting the old squeeze here, then I see, well, we got some problems.
Yeah, as long as his ankles are pulling in.
Yeah, that's right. There you go. As long as I see pulling in and control, this is good technique, whether it's judo or BJJ or just a street fight. You know, this is good.
So you allow him to have
Yeah, if he's actively, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's good. A lot of judo referees, the minute they see that lock, they think, oh, it's bad. No, we have to look for the action of the legs. And that's what I was trying to maybe explain. I didn't maybe inarticulate earlier. If I see just holding and hugging and nothing, or squeezing, that's passivity, that's inaction. But if I see him trying a move a good cross choke jujijime, something, but he's tied up. You hook your ankles again. And he's got a nice cross choke going there. Oh, yeah. As long as we don't see squeezing. He's pulling and controlling. This guy wants up, he's not letting him. Hey, that's pretty good. I like that Newaza. That's good stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, we do allow that. Yeah, yeah. Again, that might be not legal. I don't know about the current rules of judo and the IJF or USA Judo or the other groups, which they're wonderful groups, don't get me wrong. That may not be allowed. It is allowed? Okay, so it's allowed with us. We've always said it was okay. Yeah.
But in regular judo, they just, if the guy crosses ankles.
A lot of times
seconds,
they stand them up. Yeah.
stop it.
You know,
There's something else going on if you're just sitting there like
Well, I
that.
mean,
but if you're just sitting there, yeah. Well, we will too. Well, we'll say you got to get up. You got to be active. If you're just laying there,
If you're
yeah.
doing anything, sitting there for 10 seconds and not doing anything.
That's with us too. You've got to be active. You've actually got to be active. Actually. So those are the rules, and those are how it's just how the match is conducted. Again, our attitude is important as officials. We don't talk down to people. I'm not a judo snob. I'm not a jiu-jitsu snob. Okay, I'm too good to talk to you. We don't have that attitude. And if I see, as my job as the head referee in AAU, if I see an attitude like that from an official, that person I have talk. Because if I come up to Ed Carroll, who's a good referee, and I'm a coach, and I'm respectful and I have a question for him, or I'm a little kid and I have a question for him, he's an ambassador. He's a salesman. As James Wall was talking about last night, you know, part of his recruiting and retaining and getting people, he's going to explain the rule, okay? And that's part of his job as a referee. He takes that seriously. I do too. So we don't talk down to people. We don't chide people or insult them. We had a very good friend of mine, Anne Maria DeMars, has a very good team of kids at the Gomper School in Los Angeles. She brought them to Kansas City for one of our tournaments last year. She's coming back this year, I might add. She loved it. She loved the AAU experience. And she said, out of the mouths of babes, I got to tell you what one of my little kids, my little 12-year-old, said to me. And he said, I like this tournament because I had a question for the referee and he didn't yell at me. He told me, and he helped me. She said, that was great. She said, out of the mouths of babes, you know? And that was what we want. Now, in the middle of a match, he has a question, I have to go to the bathroom. No, it's the same, you know. Or I have a question, no, let's keep fighting, you know. But afterwards, or if a coach has a question, we'll talk to him. You know, I mean, that's okay. And we're people too. So, you know, we're ambassadors of the sport. We have awesome responsibilities as a referee, and we have to take it very seriously. And by doing that, we're helping people. You know, again, we want a safe match. We want an objectively called match. Okay? And so that's why we structured the points and everything else, the rules of freestyle judo. We're kind of winding down now. But that's why we structured the rules the way we have. So we can provide a more objective, safer match and let me, as a referee, officiate and not interject myself so much. Because I sincerely believe, and I've come up, I've been in the game 50 years, and I kid you not. I started when I was 12 years old, and I'm 62. So I've seen judo change dramatically through the years, and I was part of that change in America. I saw it happen. And having been a judo referee, we tend to have too much power, you know, and that's not a good thing. It's too subjective. And we take that subjectivity away from it and make it where it's equitable. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, guys, the best thing to do is when we will have some scrimmage matches here a bit later, we'll assess you on the rules. Remember, your decorum is important. You know, you always look professional. If you don't have a referee shirt, you have a white shirt or some color. All the referees may all be in, you know, don't make it blue or, you know, some of a neutral color. And if you are wearing a white shirt, we do have the cuffs, which we actually like you to use so we can, you know, or if you don't have any of that, it's a local scrimmage, say it's your dojo, just be sure you call out the color for the score, okay? And that way, everybody knows who scored what and what, okay? But all the things the same, all the other decorum we use in judo is the same, absolutely the same stuff. Any questions before we conclude it? Guys, ladies, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All righty.